want to touch on upfront information.
Yeah.
And data integration. What does an agent need to know?
Wow. Okay. This is obviously when I think the Property Misdescriptions Act was repealed in 2013, just after I'd left agency. And then it came in with the Consumer Protection Act. So it's very, very similar act. But now the trading standards are now involved and have obviously introduced the Part A element of upfront information, which is listing the price, the tenure, and the council tax banding on the portals. I think there's something been released in the press today about Part B and Part C, and I'm going to refer to my notes on this one, Lee, because it's all still relatively fresh information to me. So Part B is the physical characteristics of a property. So is it of traditional brick construction? Could be timber, it could be a concrete or wimpy no fines type construction. All that needs to be listed. The accommodation, measurements and sizes. For me, I think most estate agents include that within the floor plan and on their sales details. The utilities, so whether they're part of Severn Trent Water or British Gas, and obviously their broadband and mobile networks that they're connected to. So that's coming down the line. Part C is the rights of way, geographical risks, planning and restrictive covenants. Now, when you get into restrictive covenants, that can be quite scary for most people who are not a part of the conveyancing process. And I'll give you an example of what a restrictive covenant could look like. So let's say I live in a conservation area, so I can't put a satellite dish up. And I can't do certain things. So there's a restrictive covenant in place. If my parents were to move, they have a caravan. They may want to move on to a new build development. They may not realise that there's a restrictive covenant in place that stops them from moving. So if you can imagine, if that information is known at the onset, the buyer experience is going to be so much richer because they know that they're not wasting time.
Yep.
More importantly for me, it means that the estate agent can be more astute about their commercial decision-making process, because if they find upfront information as a default in the title, or if there is a restrictive covenant in place, and they know that before the valuation, they can go out there. First of all, they can increase their credibility, they'll become more knowledgeable, but also they can assess how long is that transaction going to take. If there's greater a risk attached to it, it's going to cost me more money. Therefore, do I charge more because of that? There's ability to make a decision as to whether or not I'm going to take that property on or I'm going to charge more money for it. But it's the impact that it also has, that knowing that information up front, the impact it has for buyers as well. In particular, it's there. The exciting stuff, of course, integration. There's lots of talk about integration in the marketplace, and I think at the moment there's talk. I think what we want to see is action. As a business, we are open to integrating with anybody. We've got open APIs that will allow us to link data into MEO. It's obviously, integration also helps reduce the risk, as I've already said, by identifying and resolving those issues early on in the process. Could it reduce transaction times? I believe it could, because we're actually getting more information at the very beginning of the journey. I do hear stories where estate agents and lawyers, estate agents share stories of lawyers not actually getting information in within the first 5 weeks of the sale being agreed. So if that information is there at the very beginning, you've actually removed 5 weeks of pain. The potentially fewer post valuation queries as well from the conveyancers in that process. So it's pretty exciting, the advent of upfront information. The next question is that will it ever be mandated by government? I think that's one we're not going to answer on this little video call today, but I do think there's an appetite from the industry, be it agents and conveyancers, that they all want to start to collaborate, and they all recognise that the process is broken, and that is a major step forward in my book.
100%, Nick. I think we should end the show on that, and thank you so much for coming on, Nick. I really appreciate it.
Thanks very much. Thank you.